Hello, hello, and welcome to BSB Must Reads, where we share with you all the books you must be reading this month. And tonight, I have with me Yolanda Wallace. Hi, Yolanda.
Hello, how are you, Sandy?
I'm good. And your release, the Frenemy Zone. Sorry, we have two books with Frenemy in the title, and I almost got them mixed up. The Frenemy Zone has gotten some great pre-publication reviews. You have a Kirkus and a Publishers Weekly and a bunch of NetGalley reviews all raving about this book.
I saw that. It made my day yesterday when I saw that. It's like I was worried about it because it came out on the first. It's like I haven't had any feedback yet. So hopefully someone has read it and liked it. Then I saw that yesterday and it put me over the moon.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And it's rare that an author will get both of those. So very well done. So I would love for you to introduce yourself to readers if they haven't read one of your books before, and then tell us a little bit about the Frenemy Zone. What's everybody raving about?
I will.
Then I think you have a sneak peek for us.
I do have a short little reading. Hopefully you'll like it. My name is Yolanda Wallace. Also write as Mason Dixon, which is my alter ego. This is my 19th book with Bold Strokes Books, and I'm really proud of this one. It is, well, like the rest of my books, it is a soft romance, and this one's set in a small town, which is near and dear to my heart. So this one's about a teenager who has to move from her hometown of San Francisco to her dad's hometown in a small town in West Virginia after they have a economic setback. And so she has to adjust to her new surroundings and her new setting, and it's all about her culture shock, and then the girl she meets who also has culture shock as well. So I'm going to read the part of the first chapter of the Frenemy Zone, and it's the introductory chapter. Ollie Smith Nakamura wanted to hit something. It didn't matter what. She just needed something tangible to focus on so she could vent her anger and frustration on something other than the easiest target, her parents. Deep down, she knew her father was one of the reasons everything in her life was so screwed up these days. It wasn't their fault that in the span of 11 months, one had lost his job and the other had been forced to shutter the restaurant he had long dreamed of opening. That was because of the downturn in the economy. It wasn't their fault. She had to leave her friends and family in the Bay Area behind and relocate to a tiny-ass town she only previously and briefly visited for family reunions or holiday get-togethers. See reason one. It also wasn't their fault that her girlfriend had broken up with her at the first sign of adversity when they'd been part of each other's lives for as long as each could remember. That was on Alice, who had promised to give the long-distance thing a try, but had kicked her to the curb before she and the family had made it even halfway through their cross-country road trip. The relationship deserved a better ending than a vaguely worded text. The friendship did too. No, none of her problems were her parents' fault, but it's so much easier to blame the people she crossed paths with every day rather than a German she couldn't see or the girl who no longer wanted to see her. Instead of lashing out for the umpteenth time, she cinched the hood of her favorite sweatshirt a little bit tighter, cranked up the volume on the rap song, blasting her earbuds a little bit higher, and retreated within herself. Because despite Kendrick Lamar's best efforts to convince her that everything was going to be all right, she couldn't imagine how things could help continue to get worse. How much longer do you plan to keep up the silent treatment? Papa asked, as he and her bio dad ferried her to the open house at her new school. Instead of answering him, she turned her attention to the views flashing past the car windows. Frogwalla, West Virginia would be pretty if it weren't so freaking small. A name change might help too, but that was the least of her worries. The population was less than 1,000, the residents were predominantly white, and the nearest real town was nearly an hour away. At least there was Wi-Fi. If not for that, she might lose her mind. What was left of it anyway. She could already feel her brain cells dying for lack of intellectual stimulation. She still couldn't believe Dad was born here, or that he had actually chosen to return. He had moved to California when he finished college 25 years ago. After he and Papa used the proceeds from selling their house to pay off their bills, they decided to pick up stakes and move to his hometown rather than remain where they were. Sure, the cost of living was much lower in West Virginia than it was in California. What was she supposed to do for fun when the most popular attractions weren't internationally known destinations like Fisherman's Wharf or uber gay Castro Street, but an abandoned coal chute and a water tower shaped like a giant frog? It's an opportunity for us to start over, Dad had said when he and Papa sat her down to tell her they're moving from a town she had grown up in to one she barely knew. Her idea of starting over didn't involve Marie condoing most of their belongings and tossing on the items that didn't spark joy. She and her parents had crammed the few things they'd opted to keep into the spaces of the shop Dad had inherited. He was trying to get to the view that the area as a loft apartment, but she couldn't see his vision. To her, it's still just a glorified storage room that Grandpa George would sleep in whenever he and Madeira got to arguing at the cell overnight. Really, Ollie? Papa asked when she continued to focus on the passing scenery rather than answer his question. We're still playing that game? She shot him a quick glance. She didn't know which was worse, the look of disappointment on his face or her unwillingness to make the necessary steps to make it go away. Her dad's wanted her to think of her next few months as an adventure, but this was real life, not a cheesy made-for-TV movie in which all the heroine's problems were neatly resolved after a romantic hayride and a few cups of hot cocoa with a newfound love interest or the high school crush it left behind. Her life was way too complicated to be fixed in 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes, not counting commercials. It's okay, Brian. Dad found an empty parking space in a lot filled with pickup trucks and minivans, then reached over and gave Papa's hand a squeeze. She's allowed to feel some type of way about all this. They shared a deep, meaningful glance before Papa turned away. Even though she was too mad at them to admit it, she liked how they still got moony-eyed over each other, even after being together for so long. They had met 22 years ago at a party at a mutual friend's house after the annual Pride Parade. They made an unlikely couple, David Smith, a Black man from Appalachia, and Brian Nakamura, a second-generation Japanese-American man from Oakland, but they had clicked right away. They had moved in together a few weeks after they were introduced. Neither could remember whose idea it was to start a family. Once became a topic of conversation, is all they could think about. Papa's sister Miriam had offered to be a surrogate. 2 rounds of IVF later, Ollie had been conceived. Auntie Mommy, as Ollie liked to call her, had urged her dad to name her Olivia because all 3 of them adored Olivia Newton-John circa 1978, when the Australian pop star had starred in Grease with John Travolta, their mutual crush. Olivia had been shortened to Ollie, not in honor of the skateboard trick, but because one of her young cousins found the longer version of her name too difficult to pronounce. The nickname had stuck. Dad turned to face her. I'm not going to try to tell you what you should or shouldn't be feeling because your emotions are valid and you're entitled to have them. You don't want to be here, I get that. You had a great life in San Francisco. Your papa and I did too. Both of us would give anything to be able to turn back the clock, but we can't. The life is over, Ollie, at least for now. Unshed tears made Ollie's eyes sting. She looked out the window so she wouldn't have to meet her dad's penetrating gaze. Please look at me when I'm talking to you. Like Papa, he was a quiet disciplinarian. Neither had a habit of raising his voice to her. They didn't have to. Their soft words always came with a sufficient air of authority. Thank you, he said after she complied with his request. In spite of change of circumstances, the 3 of us are still a family. This is just a bump in the road that we'll eventually get over. Years from now, you look back and be glad we made this decision. Until that happens, you got to cut us some slack and work with us instead of against us. Come inside, meet your teachers, check out your classrooms, and be civil for an hour. Papa flashed a smile, showing off the dimples she had inherited from his gene pool. Then you can go back to being the monosyllabic queen of sarcasm we know and love. Ollie tried not to roll her eyes because she didn't want to hear yet another lecture about the gesture being her favorite nonverbal form of expression. Fine. She stuffed her earbuds into the pocket of her hoodie and let herself out of the car. Let's just get this over with.
Oh, well, she sounds like a typical teenager to me.
Yeah, I tried to tap into my teenagers. It's been a while since I was there, but it was fun acting out those years again.
And in for some big changes. I can't wait to find out what happens. I think that set the scene very well. So you didn't touch on it in your reading, but there is a romance in
Yes.
the book. And Ariel, the love interest, is I'm gonna say like the polar opposite of Ollie, which I think is always an interesting trope. The opposites attract. And for me, what's more interesting about opposites is what it is that attracts them to one another, right? We know like why they shouldn't be compatible, but what is it that attracts Ollie and Ariel?
I think it's they both see something in the other one that they want to have in themselves, because Ariel's 6 feet tall, Ollie's 5'6". Ariel seems to have everything going for her, and Ollie she's got issues right now. So, and then for Ariel, Ollie is outspoken. She's out of the closet, and she's got a family that supports her, and she doesn't have any of those things. She's still in the closet. Her family doesn't know she's gay. Her mom is a helicopter mom. She's right there at all times, nitpicking over every single thing. And Ollie's family is just, even if they have their issues with each other, they always have each other's backs at the end of the day. So she's a little bit envious of that. So they're initially thrown off by that, dynamic in each other, then they realize, she's got something I want, and she can say anything about me.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. So you've written obviously quite a number of adult books, and also some with younger characters too. My favorite being Rum Spring. Awesome book if you haven't read it. So I'm interested from your perspective, having written both kind of age ranges, how are young adult relationships and expressions of love different to what a reader would find in an adult book?
Well, obviously, you can't do the full in-depth love scenes in a YA novel, but it's funny. You have to remember how it was to be a teenager when everything seemed like it was the end of the world. So if you got into a fight, it's like, we're never going to make up. This is it. This is over. So you have to make sure that emotion's always on the edge on every single page.
Yeah.
Because when you're
the whole my life is ruined, right? That one?
exactly.
Yeah.
If anything's wrong, if anything goes wrong, it can't be fixed. It's over forever, and everybody hates me. And so I remember how it was when I was 16, 17 years old, and if something went wrong for one day, it's like my life is over.
Yeah.
So that was fun actually tapping into that again.
It's always fun in hindsight, though. I feel like in
Exactly.
the moment,
Yeah, living through it was not fun, but writing about it now, it's like, yeah, I can torture them a little bit more.
Oh boy, you have sympathy for your parents now, don't you?
Of course.
So you've talked a little bit about how you thought back to your own teenage years. How much did you draw on your own experiences when writing The Frenemy Zone?
A lot, actually, because the town in the book is actually named for the town I grew up in. Its original name was Frogwalla, Georgia. So they changed it years and years ago. But even the layout of the town, you got the railroad track running down the middle of the highway. One side is all black and one side is all white. That is the town I grew up in. So I set it in the town I grew up in. And then a lot of the situations that happen sometimes happen to me, because each character I write is some part of me. So no matter which person it is, has some character trait that I have. So some of the things that happen in the book actually happen in real life. So it's like semi-autobiographical, even though I'm not a wrestler.
Yeah.
But the family unit is definitely my family, because the grandmother is just like my grandmother, and then all these uncles are my uncles. They used to fight like cats and dogs with each other, but if someone attacked either one of them, they had each other's backs.
Yeah. Makes sense. So what is the most teenagery trait that you had that's in that book?
Well, probably Ollie's sense of isolation. Well, actually, Ollie's and Ariel's, because Ariel is valedictorian. She feels all this pressure to succeed, and everybody's looking at her and going, "You're the smartest one in the class. You're going to be everything." So it's like that was me back when I was a teenager, because like I felt like I was the only one who was gay, the only one who was doing everything, because all eyes were on me, because I was the smartest one in the room. So it's like, let's just relive those years now, but knowing that I got out the other side, and they're still in the middle of it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what contributes to that for Ollie is their race, right? As you mentioned in your reading, they're moving to this predominantly white town. So what kinds of themes and challenges did you navigate writing that experience, and particularly writing this interracial romance?
Well, I think we all have our inherent biases. So Ollie has hers, even though she considers herself, full-fledged woke person, but every person has something within them that they need to work on. So that's the difference. When someone challenges you on those biases, do you accept the fact that you have an issue that you need to work on, or do you double down? Some of the characters in the book decide to double down rather than saying, yeah, I got a problem I need to work on. Yeah. So I had to find a common ground between the characters and have them come together in a way that felt organic, not just, some rushed kumbaya moment at the end where everybody's happy. So it's still going to be some conflict, but it's more realistic than if it just said, yep, we forgot everything that was said and done the last 300 something pages, and it's all love at the end. So there's always some conflicts left to resolve, which is pretty much kind of like real life, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's very common in YA in particular, to kind of embed these lessons, right, about life and about people and whatnot into fiction that are going to be relevant to young people and help them to navigate the world.
Yeah, I tried. Like I said, I tried to do it without doing like an after school special at the end. So hopefully I did it. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, if the reviews are anything to go by, you absolutely pulled it off. If you're interested in reading The Frenemy Zone, please do check it out. It's available right now on the Bold Strokes Books web store. Head over there and grab your copy. If you wanted to wait to the middle of the month, you can get it everywhere else books are sold. Thank you so much, Yolanda. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great talking to you today.